Greetings from Trainwizard. I'm Michael, your host. You are probably familiar with Stonehenge, the 5,000-year-old stone monument in the United Kingdom. By design, it was a sundial, an ancient monument built to align with the sun for timekeeping and showing early humanity their place in the universe. The dictionary definition of henge is a prehistoric monument consisting of a circle of stone or wood. Fast forward to today. In this video, henge is the suffix for a city or modern monument representing a celestial object, such as the sun or the moon, low in the sky over, behind, or between such monuments, or anything with leading lines, even natural formations. Any city skyline, landmark, road, track, tributary, etc. can have a henge, as seen from the east or west, and it's up to the observer and the time of year. In New York City, Manhattan solstice, or Manhattan henge, is a popular nickname for when the sun sets in alignment with the street grid on Manhattan Island, low on the horizon between skyscrapers. During the longest days of the late spring and early summer, thousands of people use that hashtag on Instagram and social media for such spectacular sunsets and sunrises. I loved sunsets all my life, and it's even better when I give my sunset pictures some satisfying geometry. Today, I will introduce you to Philadelphia's Phillyhenge and present my observations. Phillyhenge is a term most popularly known as that time when the sun rises and sets low over Market Street, as seen from Dilworth Park at Philadelphia City Hall. We will get back to that later. I'll present my Phillyhenge collection in 3 subcategories. First, we will look at the Phillyhenges where lines lead to the celestial object low on the horizon in symmetry over a street, bridge, trail, or river. Second, since this is Trainwizard, there will be trains. I'll show you my rail fanning henges with the sun and moon low over trains, trolleys, and tracks. Third, we'll look at the sun or moon over or behind a landmark like a skyscraper. As a bonus, I will show you some of my best henges taken outside of the Philadelphia metropolitan area. Before we continue, I will have to mention that you need proper protection when observing the sun, even when it's low in the sky and dimmer. I often use telephoto lenses, and I must warn you that it is like looking at the sun being focused into a magnifying glass. It will fry your eyes even if you don't feel it yet. I took this picture last year of a helicopter flying in front of the setting sun. It was and still is my favorite picture of aircraft flying in front of a celestial object. I used a 16.5 stop neutral density filter, which blocks over 99% of light, on my Tamron 150 to 600mm G2. I looked through the viewfinder at 600mm for up to a minute to get the handheld shot right, compared to just a few seconds for most Phillyhenge compositions. Big mistake. A few hours after taking the picture, I got a headache. Not an incapacitating headache, but an irritating one nonetheless. Thankfully, my vision was not affected, as far as I know, but I'm sure I irradiated the back of my eyes by looking through that viewfinder, and in the worst case, I might get cataracts later in life, but let's hope for the best. My headache went away later that night, and so far my vision is fine, and I haven't had any problems since. But still, be careful when you observe the sun. My best suggestion if you shoot the sun with a telephoto lens is to use live view. As I mentioned before, the most well-known Phillyhenge location is over Market Street, as seen from Dilworth Park in Center City, Philadelphia. The best time for that Phillyhenge sunset is April 5th and September 5th every year at about 7:25 p.m., when the sun is at the lowest over the horizon between the buildings. Looking east at this time will reveal a brilliant light show with a strip of sunlight on the facade of Philadelphia City Hall. Occasionally, the moon will find itself here too. You can also get a sunrise here at 6:33 a.m. on March 1st and 7:08 a.m. on October 12th each year. Since there are dozens of parallel streets perpendicular to Broad Street, other points in most of Philadelphia will have a Phillyhenge at the same time too, assuming no trees, structures, or changes in terrain block the view. On other times of the year, different streets in Philly will get their own Phillyhenge. I planned a Phillyhenge shot 6 years in advance for the Platte Bridge in South Philadelphia, on November 29th. Unfortunately, in 2016, I was stuck in traffic, so I missed the sun. I tried again in 2021. I wanted the sun to be directly behind the bridge's main span, so I put into account the elevation of the bridge when I chose this date, indeed also the fact that I would shoot this bridge at an angle instead of dead on, from a sidewalk on the south side of the bridge which sees constant traffic. Here is a 2021 result. This is a rush hour driver's nightmare, but a photographer's delight. You can also get the Platte Bridge Phillyhenge on January 8th. On June 10th, 2021, there was an annular solar eclipse. I could not see the full eclipse on my side of the planet, however, when the sun rose, I could still see it as a partial eclipse. I chose the Delaware River and the Tacony-Palmyra Bridge as the subject, since the sun would rise over them as seen from my vantage point at a boat launching ramp near the Kensington and Tacony Trail in northeast Philadelphia. I nervously watched as clouds blocked the horizon, which would put this entire trip and months of planning at risk of being in vain. Thankfully, that was not the case for the final images, where the waxing crescent sun, as I liked to call it, rose above the bridge and was shining beautifully, as the moon slowly moved away, revealing the full sun to shine like normal over the city for the rest of the day. To veer slightly off topic from Phillyhenge, but still regarding eclipses, there will be a total solar eclipse passing through Pennsylvania on April 8th, 2024. There is a catch though. It will still be partial in Philadelphia, so you'd need to travel to the opposite corner of the state, to Erie, to view the totality, when the sun is completely blocked by the moon, darkening the landscape so much that the street lights turn on. Totality will pass over Erie and Lake Erie at 3:18 p.m., and a few minutes later over Buffalo, New York and Niagara Falls, a prime photography location which will be guaranteed crowded with people from around the world coming to see this once-in-a-lifetime event. Miss it, and you'll have to wait 57 years for totality to pass through Pennsylvania again on May 1st, 2079. Let's hope it's not cloudy. This is a collection of Phillyhenges along the rail lines in Philadelphia and the surrounding metropolitan area. I'm putting trains, trolleys, tracks, and stations into this category. It's a bonus when the henge coincides with the schedule of a train, making for some magical photos. But we have one ground rule here at Trainwizard 101. Don't walk in active tracks to get a henge. I know it's tempting to get it perfectly symmetrical, but most of the time, it's illegal, and you'd be trespassing with the high risk of injury or death. Even crossing the street for that symmetrical streetscape sunset compromises your safety. Don't play in traffic. All pictures in this collection are taken from legal vantage points, such as pedestrian crosswalks, railroad crossings, bridges, platforms, and even through the windows inside the train. Back to the popular Market Street Phillyhenge of April and September. We go west this time via the L. The Market Frankford line in West Philadelphia is a prime spot for great suns and moons. The best place to see the evening Phillyhenge is 52nd Street Station. Wide shots show the lines as they lead into the sunlight at the horizon. Deep telephoto shots show the golden rails like a roller coaster, lit by the giant, brilliant sun as it is tucking itself in for the night. Don't forget to look behind you. The Center City skyscrapers are some nice tones of amber and gold against the belt of Venus at blue hour. Every station between 63rd and 46th Street is good for sunrise Phillyhenges, indeed sunrises in general. 63rd Street is the only station in West Philadelphia with a pedestrian overpass, giving better views from overhead, and it has been one of my favorite places to go for sunrise rail fanning over the years. As mentioned earlier, a safe head-on view of the tracks can be had at this overpass for those of us who want leading lines to be symmetrical in pictures, unlike from the platform-only views of the other West Philly stations. In the early morning on March 1st, 2020, just weeks before a pandemic slowed life in Philly and the world to a crawl, I went to 63rd Street Station with intent to get deep telephoto shots of the blazing sun behind the skyscrapers and the trains. On the east end of the Market-Frankford line, from Huntington to Erie-Torresdale stations, the entire stretch of Kensington Avenue, the winter sunsets can make for some great Phillyhenges. The sun won't set as low on the horizon directly above the tracks like they do on the Market Street stretch in April, but instead just to the right, as seen from the overpasses. But it qualifies as a Phillyhenge, since the sun does appear low enough directly over the tracks for a moment. Early on a summer morning at 5:57 a.m. on July 25th, Phillyhenge occurs over the Northeast Corridor, as seen from the eastbound platform at North Philadelphia Station. Most of the Northeast Corridor will have a Phillyhenge, since the tracks are east-west oriented more so than north-south, so the sun will rise and set over the tracks as seen from most stations. Here are some additional train and track Phillyhenges I've caught in the surrounding area. The farther away you are from the landmark or skyline, the larger the celestial disk will appear relative to that skyline. For the first time in my lifetime, the full moon fell on my birthday, September 20th, in 2021. I needed to go much further away from 63rd Street to get a large moon. Westchester Pike in Upper Darby is a heavy traffic thoroughfare, but its grade descends towards 69th Street from just west of State Road. This elevation allows for a perfect view of Center City from Delaware County, far enough away for a really big harvest moon. Winter solstice on December 21st, it's the shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. It is the day that the sun sets at its southernmost point in the horizon, since the North Pole is turned a little over 23 degrees away from the sun, chilling the Northern Hemisphere and shortening its days. Thanks to that southwesterly sunset, the Delaware River and Philly street grid in most of northeast Philadelphia and Bucks County line up with the winter sun. On such a solstice in 2019, I found what is by far my farthest accessible vantage point to see the Philadelphia skyline from the east, at Neshaminy State Park in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, about 17 miles from Center City, Philadelphia. This allowed me to get a huge sun over the skyscrapers at 4:26 p.m., by far my favorite set of Philadelphia skyline pictures that I've taken to this day. Now I'll share some of my best henges outside the Philadelphia area. Further northeast, in the New York metropolitan area, we revisit the Northeast Corridor at the station in Metuchen, New Jersey, for Amtrak and New Jersey Transit. This is a November 10th sunset. I introduced this video with my favorite Manhattan Henge picture, and we will return to New York to view a few more. On Valentine's Day, February 14th, you can get an awesome Long Island henge on the Long Island Railroad corridor on a 15-mile stretch of straight track between Jamaica, Queens and Hicksville, New York. I shot the henge sunset while rail fanning at New Hyde Park Station in 2018. You can watch my full video compilation of local and express trains here on Trains of 2018, Episode 4. There are several good smartphone apps for tracking the motion and direction of the sun and moon. I use the free app Lunar Sol Cal. If you know a vantage point with a view looking east or west and want to plan ahead, you can use this app to set the location, choose the date, and see where the sun or moon will be, using the colored lines as guides. Sunrise and sunset henges are always going to occur at the same time each year, so the dates I mentioned for them will be the same, no matter what year you choose. You can even mark your calendar if you want to see sun henges using the data in my video. You may give or take a day or two to factor in angles you will be shooting from, or to compensate for terrain or buildings. Moonlight henges will occur at different dates each year, so you'll have to mark different dates in your calendar for the year you choose to hunt for a good moon henge. All around the world, you can find roads, railways, waterways, etc. that line up with the sun and moon. Be creative, plan ahead, and get your best shot. I'll continue capturing Philly henges and sunsets all around. Meanwhile, which scene from this video was your favorite? What henges have you seen? What is your favorite celestial body to observe in the sky? Discuss in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.